welcome to Stretford Paddock. My name is Joe. This is Transfers Live. It's just me tonight, but that's because we have got a slightly shorter 20-minute news update. Will be done by the time the penalty shootout starts. That is my promise to you. Start the clock. Right, let's get into our stories. Camavinga is the first one. Manchester United have not quite yet matched Rennes' valuation of Camavinga. French outlet saying that they were met with laughter from a source at Rennes when a potential bid of around 30 million euros was mentioned. Personally, I don't believe that. I don't think that people start laughing in meetings when you're talking about playing 30 million quid for an 18-year-old whose contract runs out next season. I don't think people laugh at that, because if they do, I mean, it's just a bit disrespectful, isn't it? Like, fair enough, he's a good player, but what do you expect to get from him? 70 million, 100 million? It's not going to happen, is it? Like, he's a good lad. He's got a year left on his contract. So what did you think? I don't believe that personally. Perhaps United haven't met the valuation. I could see that. I could see a world where they think they want more like 40 to 50 million euros, 35 to 40 million pounds. I could see that being possible. But what I can't see is United going, 30 million euros? And they go, ha 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 ha. Doesn't happen like that. Business doesn't happen like that. It's not like the ancient Greeks where you laugh at someone and then cut their head off. I don't think that will have happened. This is according to Sky Sports, following on from the Camavinga story. It says United are in informal talks with Camavinga. Rennes reportedly do not want him to leave this summer and have offered the youngster a new deal, which he has not yet signed. Here's what happens, right? If I've got someone who I don't want to leave my club or my work, and another business or person comes to me and says, we want to have a chat with your player about getting him, your employee, about getting him for our company. You don't go, yes, and then not want him to leave. If you don't want him to leave, you don't have talks with him. You don't allow him to talk to different clubs. See what I mean? If they're chatting to United, it's because there is a value on Camavinga. There is a point where they say, yes, we'll sell him for that. So this whole thing of they don't want him to go, they don't want him to leave. Well, all right, you obviously do want him to leave a little bit, otherwise you wouldn't be chatting to other clubs, would you? Because why would you do that otherwise? I'm not sort of taking offers for my girlfriend on the off chance that she, do you know what I mean? You don't do that. No offers, no matter how high. Somewhere in the region of 150 grand probably. We can talk at that point. But anything less than that, no chance. Yeah, Camavinga, obviously United are interested. Fabrizio Romano has been talking about it over the last couple of days. United do want Camavinga. United are currently the closest to getting him of anyone. We're further along down the negotiating line than anyone else is. But at the moment, it is not done, and it doesn't look like being done, I would say, in the next couple of weeks. So I think we're going to have to keep talking about this one for a little bit longer. Right, let's move on to our next story. And this is about Declan Rice. And he was linked with United, wasn't he? Now ESPN are saying that this one's come to an end. As you can see there, the graphic, Jesse Lingard would not be keen to be used as a make weight in any negotiations to bring Rice, valued at £80 million by West Ham, to Old Trafford. This is a point that Jay's been making for about 3 months. When everyone's been going, give him Lingard, and then we'll get him for 50 million, Jay's been saying, hang on a sec, maybe Jesse Lingard doesn't want to be at West Ham for the last big contract of his career, at a team that there is no guarantee of European football, who managed to get, I think, Europa League football this year, you know, due to a sort of a miracle of different teams underperforming and them overachieving. Jesse Lingard's going to probably sign a 5-year deal wherever he goes if he leaves Man United. I doubt he'll be at West Ham. And Jay's been saying that for a long time. So does that mean that the Declan Rice speculation can now come to an end? Personally, I don't think it was ever that close anyway. I think he was on a long list. I think that the fee that they want for him is ludicrous regardless of whether Jesse Lingard was part of it. I still don't think it's good value for money to lose Jesse Lingard and still pay 55 million for Declan Rice. I think that's a bad deal for Man United. It's not just he's not worth 80 million. I don't think he's worth 55 plus Lingard. I think Lingard's got more value than that, and I'd rather take the 25 million that someone will give us for Jesse Lingard and spend that 55 million just on an outright player and have, you know, 35 million or you know, a net spend of 35 million instead, rather than losing money on a Declan Rice deal that is just ridiculously overpriced in the first place. Yes, you might take a Jesse Lingard sort of chunk off it, but I think that sort of disrespects Lingard's value and just buys into this Declan Rice being worth 80 million quid thing. He's had a good Euros, if not, you know, somewhat, what's the word? Not quiet, but understated perhaps. I think Declan Rice. He's not the sort of all-action Kante midfielder. He's not this wizard on the ball who can control a game from deep midfielder like Michael Carrick was. Maybe he's got a bit of Carrick's positioning, maybe he's got a bit of Kante's positioning, but he doesn't have those extra qualities that both of those or either of those players have, whether it's the tackling and the industriousness of Kante or the positioning and the brilliant world-class passing with both feet that Carrick has. He's just got the sort of the base level, which is decent, which is maybe worth 30, 40 million, but it doesn't elevate you to being a top-class player that's worth 80 million like West Ham are looking for Declan Rice. So I don't personally see how he is good value for money. Currently in the 102nd minute in the Spain-Italy game, that is 1-1 as it stands. Both teams looking pretty good, actually. I think everyone wanted Italy to win. Everyone thought Italy were going to win. And if we're being honest, Italy haven't made many chances. Neither have Spain. But I suppose that's the game Italy wanted, wasn't it? So yeah, for me, Declan Rice doesn't look likely at all. I don't think it ever really did. But certainly, if United don't want to lose Jesse to West Ham, if Jesse doesn't want to go there, which it seems like he may not want to, I don't quite see how we bridge that £80 million gap with a number of players or, you know, just with straight cash. I don't see how that's going to happen. Let me know what you think. Will you be disappointed to lose out on Declan Rice? Do you think he's worth that? Do you think we could maybe, you know, let's say he's valued at 80, we could maybe talk him down to 66, 67, that kind of fee? You know, I'm not saying West Ham want 80, so they just get 80. Do you think he's worth it? And do you think we're sort of missing out there? Because for me, like I said, I think he's probably not worth what they want for him, even if we can talk him down a little bit. John's saying it's 2-1. He hasn't said who to, and I don't know if I believe him. But if there is a goal, I'll keep you updated. And please keep me updated as well. Declan Rice is a poor man's McTominay. Interesting. Well, it has to be a rich man's McTominay, if anything, because you need 80 million quid to have him. So I'm not sure about that. No, we want Bellingham, and so does Ole, perhaps. Henry Winter, massively keen on Jude Bellingham. When he was on the Tier 1 podcast, if you haven't seen that, check that out with me and Ronaldo a couple of weeks ago. He was saying this isn't sort of based on an inside knowledge or anything like that, but he knows how much United wanted Bellingham last season. He thinks eventually Bellingham may well end up at Manchester United. Apparently that it isn't 2-1. I thought it wasn't. Someone saying it's not 2-1 for fuck's sake. Teo Katza saying 80 million for Rice is outrageous. BMW Racing 1974 says half time in the extra time there, and Red Devil 99 says it's still 1-1. Yeah, I thought it was 1-1. It seemed like it would be 1-1, and it is 1-1. Right, let's move on to our next story. We've still got our Varane story coming up in a little bit, but before that, let's get into one Daniel James. Now, I know there are certain people on the internet, and I'll go as far as to say on this channel, that are not fans of Dan James, that don't like him, they don't think he's a very good player, they don't think he should be at Manchester United, etc., etc., etc. He's not great at breaking down a deep line defence, we know that. He's not got the best finish on him. He's not particularly good in the air. He's not particularly composed in front of goal or when there's a lot of pressure on him, but he is very fast. So, is Dan James on his way out? Brighton have shown an interest in James, but could face competition from Leeds United, Leicester City, Aston Villa and Everton. Now, we paid 15 million for him. I don't think we're ever expecting to get the next David Beckham for 15 million quid. I don't think we're ever expecting to get the next Cristiano Ronaldo, or Gareth Bale in this instance, maybe is a more apt comparison. But when you look at the list of people who want him, Brighton, Leeds, Leicester City, Aston Villa, Everton, with the exception of Leicester, you could describe all of those teams as mid-table teams. And I think that is maybe more his level slightly. My only concern is Marcus Rashford's injury record and history, and with this upcoming surgery, his injury sort of future, if there is such a thing. People talk about injury record, but what about injury future, is massively uncertain at the minute. Martial's whole future at the club is uncertain. There's rumours Diallo's going on loan. So, you know, let's say Martial leaves to make money or to make some space for another signing in the defender or something like that, or to sort of help fund the Sancho deal sort of going forward in the payments. Let's say he leaves. Let's say, even if Diallo doesn't go on loan, let's say Rashford gets an injury. Or let's say he has a complication or he has this operation on his shoulder and he has to miss the first 6 weeks of the season, something like that. Who are going to play? You've got Diallo and Sancho and that's it at that point. And then you've got Mason Greenwood filling in where you can. But I just think we need to sort of sometimes not throw the baby out with the bathwater a little bit. It's exciting. We're moving forward in those wing positions. I think we maybe well have outgrown Dan James, even as a squad player when everyone's fit. But if people aren't fit, people don't stay fit. That's what football's all about. So I think Dan James will get plenty of minutes next season. I would be wary to move him on unless we're replacing him. Again, he's limited in what he does, but he does do some things well. And if you can put him in those games, for instance, Leeds at the end of last season, look at the way Wales played in the Euros, especially in the group stage. Dan James was brilliant. That requires a bit more of a counter-attacking game. But against the bigger teams even, we've seen United play like that and have success. Against the likes of Man City, he's a great, let's say we're 1-0 up against Man City, Dan James will get back and defend more than sort of, Mason or Jadon Sancho tend to do, and also will offer a great threat on the opposition end, on the other end in attack, trying to get that extra goal. I'd fancy him in a situation like that. So, as much as I think he may well leave because his quality's, I don't think ever going to be there to be a starter for Manchester United, I don't think there's any shame in having Dan James on the bench to do a job in 10 to 15 games next season, and maybe way more than that, depending on injuries. Again, you've got to have backups. You can't just have one player in each position. If you've just got Marcus Rashford as a left winger, what happens if he gets injured? Interesting. James Gillespie saying, Joe, you should watch this game. Mancini just hit Chiesa with a steel chair, and he's managing Spain now. That's incredible. And due to Spain's record of sacking managers before and sometimes during tournaments, that wouldn't be completely surprising. Someone said turn the volume up. I don't know if everyone's having a problem with that, but it seems as though it might just be you. Thiago on for Busquets. Advantage Italy. Well, yeah, Spain probably aren't going to score, but maybe it's better at taking penalties. Price depends on contract left. Lingard has a year left. People talking in the comments saying that Lingard isn't worth 50 million. There's a suggestion that it might be. I'm not sure that that's the case. Sell James to Leeds, get Rafinha. Yeah, if we can swap him for one of Leeds' players who is better, or again use him as a sort of a make-weight like we're talking about using Lingard, I could see a reason to move Dan James on then. But if it's just sell Dan James because we don't need him now because we've got Sancho, I would be wary of that proposition somewhat. Maybe we can turn the mic up just very slightly, Alex, if you just want to boost that up a touch. Right, Dan James is done. Let's move on to our next story. And next up, we have got Brandon Williams, another youngster that hasn't had much game time this season. Sort of had a flying start to his Man United career. Came in, back up left back for Luke Shaw, who wasn't playing very well in the season before last. I think it was like 25 games, something like that. He played for United, looking excellent in most of them. His performances sort of tailed off to the end of the season before last, and he barely featured last season. There were some sort of rumours of things going on off the pitch or certain things, I don't know what was true, what wasn't true, and I don't know whether that played any part in him playing for United or not. But what we do know for certain, regardless of any rumours that, we don't need to be getting into, he didn't play for United last season. Barely at all. Even times when Wan-Bissaka could have done with the rest. I know he's played left back most of for United, but he is right-footed. He can play on that right-hand side. Even when Wan-Bissaka was dying for a rest, he still played Wan-Bissaka. So I just think that, Brandon's time at Manchester United, certainly short-term, I don't think is now. I don't think his time at United is now. Whether that ever comes around again, or, with a loan perhaps, or whether he's just sort of done, I think he needs some sort of change. So for me, a loan would make a lot of sense. Again, progress in Williams' loan move. Brandon Williams is keen to go to Southampton on loan after the same loan move talks broke down last summer. There were rumours of this, weren't there, last year? And at that time, it seemed like a weird thing of like, why would Brandon Williams go on loan? He's our backup left back, and then Tellers came in afterwards. But he's our backup left back. He played a lot of games last season. He's only going to get better this season. Why would he leave? It didn't make sense then. It absolutely does make sense now for the reasons I've just mentioned. So personally, I think it would be a good thing for Brandon Williams to go on loan. He's getting to an age, I think he's 20 now. Is he, Brandon Williams? Let me just check that quickly. He's 20 years old. He's getting to an age where you either need to play for the team you're at or play for someone else. And whether that's, again, on loan for a season or what, you can't really be a 20-year-old that doesn't play much football, because at some point you need to kick on and you need to make yourself a position in the first team, especially at fullback as well, where you do see younger fullbacks coming through. Wan-Bissaka at Crystal Palace is a great example of that. It's not as though a 20-year-old fullback can't be playing. Sometimes I've said it with centre-backs and central midfielders in particular. generally speaking, you don't get a 20-year-old in that position, sort of desperate to be in the first team, because it takes 22, 23, 24 before you can really cement yourself. But a 20-year-old fullback needs to be playing games. So if it were up to me, he would go on loan, especially if we do get a replacement or a backup. Trippier's been mentioned, too expensive. Let's see if there's someone else available. But if we get another right back, I think Brandon Williams could do with a loan. And also Ethan Laird is another one who needs to be monitored and kept an eye on, because who knows whether he could come back this summer as well. In extra time, I believe it's 108 minutes gone. So that means, what, 7 minutes till penalties? We'll be out of here before penalties, don't you worry about that. Right, let's move on to our final story of the evening then. And this is the big one, Raphael Varane. Permission granted from Real Madrid for Manchester United to begin talks with Varane. Now, there have been rumours that terms have been loosely agreed with Varane. There's been rumours that Real Madrid have named their price of £50 million or €50 million, depending on what you're reading, somewhere in the region of 45 to 55 million pounds in that area, which, even though that's a 10 million quid differential, it's a sort of manageable 10 million quid, isn't it? Because that's the sort of region you would expect to be playing for a player of Varane's quality. Now United are being allowed to hold official talks with Varane's representatives. I don't know if any of you saw this today, by the way, and obviously Barcelona are not Real Madrid, but there was a list of Barcelona contract like wages that came out today, which is absolutely stunning. By the way, some of them, Griezmann, €800,000 a week. De Jong, €400,000 a week for a 22-year-old that came straight from Ajax, who was probably on about €60,000 a week, or maybe 100,000 at a push, all the way up to 400,000. And like Umtiti's on 250. Other players who were just sort of fringe players for them are on 250. And whilst obviously Barcelona and Real Madrid are two separate entities, you look at the finances of both of them, and they are both in and around €1 billion in debt. And are both desperate to trim their contract and their wage bills. Obviously, Real Madrid have done a good chunk of that in letting Sergio Ramos go, who was on, I think, somewhere around €300,000 a week. Ramos going to PSG. Varane is next on that list. And this whole thing of, well, why would they let him go? He's the best, one of the best centre-backs in the world. He's been there for 9 years. He's won everything. Because they need to save money. And at a certain point, you have to let your best players go, especially if he's run his contract down, especially if he's already said, I don't want to be here next season. They may lose him for free. Now, if they sell him to United for 45 million quid, they get 45 million quid and what his wages would have been for the last year of his contract. Otherwise, they let him go in a year, and they had to pay his wages that time, and they don't even get the 40 million quid. So to them, they sort of need this. Unless he signs a new deal and commits to him, and they're going to sort of win trophies their way out of this, and try and make enough profit that way to sort of get out of their ridiculous debt situation. Unless they're going to do that, selling him is a sensible option. And this whole, you see it on social media, why would they let him go? Why would he want to leave? Well, maybe he doesn't want to leave. Maybe he's not sort of as desperate to leave as it would seem. Maybe Madrid are like, we need to get rid of you. As that seems to be the case. I think, who was it at Barcelona? I think Umtiti was one of them, where they offered to just terminate the contract. You can go for free. Like, when have big clubs ever done that with top players who have got years left on their deal? I think United did it with Sanchez, and that, I think, explains exactly the situation there. You can go on a free because you're such a burden financially to this club. I think if they can get 45 million, 50 million quid for Varane, I reckon Real Madrid may well just take that. It seems as though United have some sort of agreement with Varane. It seems as though United have some sort of agreement with Real Madrid. I think that final piece is, does he think he can get more money from Madrid, or is there another club interested? PSG obviously being the main one that seems to be interested, if anyone is. Although Romano has said in the last few days that PSG will no longer be going for Varane. This, honestly, whilst at the start of the summer I would have said this is the least likely thing to happen. It's going to be Pau Torres. It may be Jules Koundé if not. This now to me seems like this may well happen. And anyone who's, or should I say, there are plenty of reputable journalists who are saying, we are interested, we do want Varane, we are going for him, this isn't a smokescreen, this isn't the thing, he wants to leave, he fancies playing in England. this adds up in a lot of ways, if you ask me. Right, that's going to be all from me. Just in time for the penalty shootout in the Spain versus Italy game. Still a chance, of course, for a goal, but I reckon we're going to penalties to see who will be in the Euro 2020 final. Again, Varane talks ongoing. Real Madrid have given United permission to speak to him, which is a massive update there. Basically saying, or to me, you can have him, pay the fee, and he's yours. I don't want to get too excited about this because we've been hurt in the past, but I think the chance to sign Raphael Varane is looking more and more likely by the day, to the point where I think he's our most likely centre-back target at this point, even though I thought Pau Torres was almost nailed on earlier in the summer. Right, thank you again for tuning in. Bit of a short one today. We'll be back on Thursday. Full, big episode. I think it's me and Jay, so plenty to look forward to. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you in a bit.